Yeah, Tom, Courtney. So I talked to this man right here. He didn't want to interview live with us, but he wanted to share these details. His child, we talked about this earlier, and I heard you guys talking about it, that daycare that is right next to that CDC building, his child is in there right now. So, of course, he is a worried parent that came over here to pick up his child. He says that they got an alert that all of those kids are safe at the moment, so that is the blessing in all of this. He doesn't believe that any of those kids inside that daycare facility, which would be right across the street from the CVS, next to the CDC. That's where his child is, and he believes that they will be okay, that they say that they will bring those children and those small kids out to meet the parents. But he told me he's not going anywhere until he lays eyes on his little one. And of course, this is around the time that they would be picking up as well. So any of those parents might be rushing here as well. According to this parent and the alert that he received, he says that those kids there at that daycare center next to the CDC are okay as well. And just reiterating that statement from Lorraine Cochran-Johnson, the CEO of DeKalb County, she's sending her thoughts and prayers to those impacted by this, and she's also thanking law enforcement officers. It seems that she probably will have another statement and wouldn't be shocked if she was at that press conference that is set to take place any minute now. Scott, can you focus over there to my right, to the camera's left as well? Lady in the pink shirt, woman who looks to be maybe in scrubs, not in another man in the green shirt. We've been seeing them. They're just inside, so I'm not sure if they might have been at the CVS or if maybe they were in the CDC, but it looks like they have some sort of connection to what happened. Maybe they were there. They've been talking with law enforcement officers. They haven't gotten close enough so I can ask any of my questions, but of course the first concern is for law enforcement. It looks like they're taking statements with investigators, and that's what we have seen now. So it has gone from that more active and running situation with law enforcement to now they're scouring the scene. I've seen them looking over in the bushes to make sure that they are combing through any type of evidence or any type of thing that might be happening, in talking with a lot of the people who might have been in the area when all of this unfolded. Tom, Courtney?
Yeah, it has to be such a relief to parents like the gentleman you spoke with to know that their kids are okay. Just knowing that this was a shooting where there were bullet holes that hit windows as far as we can see, and that we have confirmed that one of them hit a window that is located in the building directly behind, within view of the daycare center. Did this man tell you if he's been told if there is a staging area, or were there directions given for parents to get their kids who are still sheltering in the daycare center?
He has not. He said that I saw him talking to an officer, and the officer told him to stay right here in the area. That's why he really didn't want to move. But you can still hear some sirens coming in as people are coming in and out. But he was told to stay here in this area. I'm assuming there are probably other parents who are nearby or close, or maybe on the other side of where this scene is, trying to get to their child as well, Courtney.
So, Eric, people really aren't being allowed through that scene yet. I mean, they still have it blocked off whether you have a kid that might be in the daycare center or not. We can presume that the parents have been communicated with that their kids are okay. But you can imagine that, the frayed nerves out there as they just want to give their child a big hug and thank the Lord that they weren't involved somehow in this melee, this fatal melee that happened earlier this afternoon.